You're watching It Can Be You with Jordana, and today's guest is going to be Ivanna Fontana, who is a fashion stylist and entrepreneur. And what I'm super excited about you getting out of this interview is really learning how to dive deep into your inner purpose, really when it comes to spirituality, mind, body, purpose. This is a guest that's going to bring all of that and so much more.
Fashion Innovation is a global platform that connects voices from the fashion and innovation ecosystems.
When we got the news that we were going to be ringing the opening bell at NASDAQ, it was overwhelming and at the same time exciting.
Since its founding, Fashion Innovation has hosted over 650 of fashion's leading innovators to audiences representing 180 countries.
Fashion innovation is community. It's impossible to innovate alone. People are key.
It's just as easy as we say to dream small as it is to dream big, and so dream big. So service and giving back to others has been majority of actually everything I do in my life. I truly don't believe that there is purpose in doing something if you're not giving back to others. It's always been my motto. And even through my success with my company, Fashion Innovation, that I co-founded, I remember when I got a call to ring the opening bell at NASDAQ, my excitement wasn't about ringing the bell at NASDAQ. My excitement was the fact that I was going to get models in the favelas of Brazil to be in Times Square having their photographs shown on the tower, because I knew how life-changing that would be for them. And I remember this to this day. I called all of them because I still have access to the campaigns that we've done. And I remember calling and saying, guess what? I got invited to ring the bell at NASDAQ and your photo is going to be in a tower in Times Square. And the messages that I got back from them saying, one actually sent me back a message, said, I went from thinking of taking my own life to getting this message from you. And he's like, and you made me so happy, crying on the message. And that to me, which I've always known, but it was kind of like a reminder how important it is for anything that you do. It needs to serve others. Otherwise, what's the purpose? So that's how I live my life. You're listening to It Can Be You with Jordana. I'm here with Ivanna Fontana, who is a fashion stylist and entrepreneur. I'm so happy to have you on a podcast. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to start off, somebody who's watching has never heard of you before. Who are you and what defines you?
I love this question. Who am I? I am Ivanna. I am a fashion stylist and I have a deep passion to make people feel confident and fully self-expressed. What defines me? I would say I have a unique way of making people feel like they can do anything. And I feel like because of my journey of my own search for confidence and, feeling fully self-expressed, I feel like I'm able to bring that out of people because I know what that struggle feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And so what defines me is feeling like I can be myself around people and feeling confident that people can do the same.
That's great. I love that. And I have a lot of questions now that are like in my mind, which I'm so excited to dive into with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like your superpower is allowing people to feel like themselves and comfortable and they can achieve anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you have always had inside of you? Have you had to work toward that? I'd love to know your journey, for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel in that. Like, do you feel like you can accomplish anything? The confidence that you have in you. Tell me a little bit spiritually how that works for you.
I would say I've always been the type of person who was super ambitious and a go-getter. Mm-hmm. I think I have parents who have always, encouraged me to go for my dreams, but there was always an element of self-doubt that I had to battle with. And so although I was super clear on chasing the dreams and going after my ambitions, there was an inner conflict of self-belief and self-trust. And so I would say over 10 plus years ago, I probably went on my first journey of searching for the meaning of life, but also unraveling this person who I thought that I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meaning of life. Do you think there is just one meaning, or do you think it has a different meaning for different people?
Now I feel like we attach the meaning to life, and I feel like as humans we're like meaning making machines, and we always feel like we need to attach some kind of meaning to something to feel like we can understand things.
Yeah.
My biggest lesson in life is surrendering to that and realizing that we don't have any control. And so through many struggles and situations in my life, I feel like the biggest lesson has been to trust myself, even though I think I searched a lot externally for, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? I don't think there is any right or wrong. I think you just need to make a choice and trust yourself that you've made the right decision.
Okay, I love that. I want to go back. So I'm going to go back to Ivanna, the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up. Let's go back 4, 5, 6 years old to who you are today and what your purpose is today, which obviously shows you're a very selfless person, it seems, from what you've just said, who really cares about others. Were you always like that as a little kid? Did you think that this journey in, you wanting to help others in this way and all of that, is that something that's always kind of been innate in you as a child? Do you see things that maybe you did as a kid to where you look at yourself now and think, this makes sense why I'm doing this now, because when I was a kid, this and this and that?
I love this question, and I love that you're answering it, like asking me the way you've just asked it, because I've recently had flashbacks of when I was like in preschool, or we call it preschool back in Australia, and it's like I have these visions of like sitting in the sandpit with other little kids, right? And then I kind of like flash back to now, and I'm like seeing my interactions and my friendships and my relationships with all walks of life and all types of people. And I think there was just always this like wanting to bring people together, to feel like that people felt like they belonged, or like this connection. I think maybe I felt that, inside my family with cousins and stuff like that. But I felt like maybe there was something missing in terms of feeling like I belonged somewhere. And so there was always like this feeling of like, oh, let's, whether it was playing in the sandpit or like now putting together my most recent charity event with women, it's just like, I just want people to feel like they're accepted and feel like there's a trust there, like they can just be themselves. Mm-hmm. A sense of safety. I think there's always a sense of safety I've searched for.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Do you correlate? So it's interesting to me. So coming from fashion myself in the industry in different ways than, I find that clothing, the way you express yourself, is very much kind of, it makes you feel a certain kind of way. It's what you put on, what you want to interpret to the world that day, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm listening to what you do on like the coaching, body, mind, spirit side of you.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking of you as a stylist. Is styling something that you went into? Talk to me through a little bit, like the reason you went into fashion and how you attach fashion, let's say, to confidence, to mental health. I would love to hear that from you.
Definitely. I initially went into fashion, again, that search for some kind of belonging.
Yeah.
When I look back at it now, I think we look at fashion as like it's for the misfits, back in the 80s and stuff like that. I feel like my passion for style and fashion definitely stems from my mum, and like the way that, she would always put things together, and how she, kept our family home. She'd always put together my outfits for modeling, dancing and graduation shows and stuff like that. I decided to pursue fashion at around 14, 15 because I was always watching fashion TV and super inspired by the runway shows. I think initially it was this unattainable world where it felt almost like not everyone could be a part of. right? And so maybe there was like that search for belonging in like a misfit of an industry. I guess having the modeling and dancing influence impacted that a little bit. But there was this strive for perfectionism, which I think also had an influence. So I feel initially it was so I could hide behind a mask. And so I loved the creativity. I loved being able to execute a vision, but it was almost like, I want to be part of this unattainable, beautiful, perfect world, which I mean doesn't exist, but it was just like, it's like a fantasy. It's like when people want to be actresses and go to Hollywood and be a star. It's the same kind of thing. So initially it was definitely that. And then as time went on, I was like, okay, there's an emptiness inside of me that I need to confront, from many other things. But it was almost like this confidence that I was always trying to build in myself that I then started implementing with my clients and in the styling side of things. So once I started working on myself and really confronting, the emptiness and this lack of confidence that I felt just from self-doubt and not having self-trust, I was like, well, this is my mess, so to speak, is like going to be my message. And so then I was like, yeah, I can style models and produce runway shows and do all that side of things, but the transformation side of it, of an everyday person going through that process, felt more fulfilling for me.
That's really
why,
interesting.
Yeah, that's why I felt the need to go deeper into like my own like inner work, so that I could then, help people on a deeper level, not just superficially.
So with this show, it can be you, right? It's people thinking like, can this be me? And what you just said about the fashion world being unattainable is something that there's a two-part question that I have for you. Is once you did tap into the fashion industry, did you look back and say, actually, that wasn't so hard to do? Like, it's not actually unattainable. We could do it. And the fact that you threw your spin on it in terms of finding your space within fashion to say, I can do this and I can add my life purpose of helping others through being in this industry. And then that made it easier for you to attain that because you came in with your purpose of what you would bring to the fashion world. What are your thoughts on all of that? I think there's something really magical there that kind of people can really learn from.
Well, as you know, the fashion industry is hard and challenging and not easy and not for the faint-hearted. And it hasn't been an easy journey making it in the fashion industry. And so coming from Australia, coming from a super small city, I did everything I could to work on my skill set, from going to Sydney, where all the biggest stylists were, from going overseas to working at Mercedes-Benz runway shows and doing everything I could to add to my skill set, my expertise, all of that. The fashion industry, it's not pretty, as you know. I've had incredible experiences. I've worked with some of the most inspiring, creative, talented designers, models, runway producers. I've worked on incredible projects and I'm grateful for that. But more importantly, if I hadn't found my life purpose and, what I was meant to do, I don't think I would have survived the industry, because there's only so many fashion shows, beautiful models you can work with until you start thinking, how is this serving the world and humanity?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So I love how you said making it with the asterisk, and I'm curious, this is a really something I'm very curious about because you're very inspiring to me and everything you've done, and just keep pushing the way that you do. I think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you think there is a definition of making it? So it's funny because I was at a Vogue event maybe a year ago and Marc Jacobs was on stage and somebody asked him, they said, what was the moment that you looked and you said, I've made it? And his answer was, it still hasn't happened because I still don't feel like I really made it. So because in his mind, making it is something that he's trying to accomplish that he hasn't accomplished yet. So what you just said about once you found your life purpose, what it was meant to be, and you put it in and then it made it worthwhile for you. What do you think, how do I ask this? Because I love this, I feel it, but I'm trying to put it into words. But, when it comes to the whole making it aspect of things, do you think that through your experience, it's really what you internally when you can look and say, I'm happy with this, that you've made it? Or do you look at it as a textbook, made it, to kind of think that way?
So there's so many layers to this, because in whose book have you made it?
Yeah,
in whose perspective have you made it? And it's like you can be on that hamster wheel for like years, and you can keep working with the best of the best. And it's like, you know, working in bigger cities, like me coming to LA, going to New York. I mean, I could go to Milan and Paris and, you know, continue to push the envelope to work with the best of the best. Would that make me happy? Probably not, because you keep reaching a level that you're not necessarily going to like feel fulfilled, because based again on whose perspective have you made it?
Yeah.
Is it the people in the industry that make that decision? You know, social media influencers, like where do you measure? It's like any industry you work in. You can keep striving to work with the best, and I would love to do that. But I feel like now, with where I'm at in my personal journey and growth, I would be doing it for other people's validation. And that's, for me, not going to make me happy. I've had to stop putting levels and standards and expectations of myself of what is making it in the industry, because I feel like I'm just like on a hamster wheel going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
When I actually started, you know, living in my purpose and seeing transformations that I was making, you know, with people in the industry and everyday people, that was what made me more fulfilled. You know, again, the fashion industry, there's a fine line between ego and a fine line between fulfillment, contentment, and as a human being, and, you know, with knowing how I am and how sensitive I am, I'm like, I need to stay aligned to my purpose, because you can get pulled into, well, if I work with this person, it, you know, makes me look a certain way, and it makes, you know, the credibility. But who am I trying to impress? Do I want to make myself feel, you know, aligned and centered and grounded, or am I trying to get more likes on Instagram?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. And how did you learn, did it come naturally to you to learn how to listen to that inside voice of yours, and like, you know, like spiritually, like obviously, like everything you're saying, it sound like I feel it, and I know it, every single word to be true, because it's coming from deep inside of you. So how did you learn, like what was the process for you to really tap into you and stop listening to the outside voices?
I'm definitely still learning, and if I'm really like honest and transparent with you, it's probably one of my biggest challenges and struggles, which is why I've committed to a path of growth and constant self-development, unraveling this, having to learn a technique or something to be okay or get through. The less I've done, and just like learning to be, has been a big challenge for me.
And it's, you know, it is a process, right? Because it's easy to say, like, we have moments that we can tune in and listen and be okay, but then there are moments that are very challenging, and as much as we try, we feel like we hit a wall, and sometimes we need outside help in some type of way, right? It brings me back when I just got separated recently. I'm Jewish, and I started going to church, and I just felt this, I was like, maybe going to church, I'll get a message that I need to hear, and that helped me kind of get back in touch with myself, because I felt so like out of sorts, you know? So I think it's beautiful that you reach for knowledge and education when it comes to that, like a lot, you know? And I think that's something that a lot of people should invest more in themselves in. So
and
I love
definitely
that.
faith. Like faith has been a huge aspect of my time here in the US, because there was so much unknown and uncertainty. You know, I grew up Catholic, but I never really felt connected, like going through school and in family. I did all the, you know, Catholicism, the obligatory sacraments and stuff like that, but I never really felt connected until I moved to the other side of the world, and I was like, okay, I need to rely on some faith, because this is insane and I don't know what my life is going to look like starting from the ground up. But faith has definitely been a huge aspect of that too.
And I have to tell you one thing that I remember, and I want to pass this on because of what you just said. But when I first went to church, the pastor was on stage, or I don't know what do you call it, but she was on the, and she, I remember I was feeling very like, alone and everything. And she just said very simply, she said, just know, regardless of what you believe in, God, Jesus, whatever it is, just know that you're never alone as long as you accept that there's a higher power within you. And as soon as she said that, I just started like bawling, crying, but I felt for the first time like I wasn't alone. And I think that's like really powerful. It's not about what religion you are, right? But it's just knowing that there's that higher faith, that higher realm.
You're gonna make me cry, because like it's definitely a higher power that gets you through the toughest moments, especially the past few months for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
Hold
that.
back tears.
No, beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I do want to go into LA Wildfires. I think it's so beautiful what you did. I remember, watching on social everything that was happening, and I just kept being drawn to your page. And I always find it very touching when someone has a lot going on like you do, and you just stopped everything. And all I saw from then on, and it makes me actually emotional, and you can't know you're going to make me cry if you cry. But I just saw how you just poured all of yourself into assisting, into helping, into the events that you've been creating for it. And that, to me, talk about make it, you've made it, just being the person that you are for doing that, So
Thank you.
it's true, and it's beautiful to have seen that. Talk to me a little bit about why you were so just drawn to really making a difference in that moment.
I think, firstly, realizing the extent of how bad the fires were, because I was with a couple of girlfriends out in Joshua Tree, just going through my own process of dealing with what I had just recently dealt with, personally. And we were driving back literally into an inferno, and I had no idea. And, once I actually realized what was going on, and then realizing that I had to evacuate my apartment once we realized what the second fire was doing, it was all the adrenaline of that was a lot, but it was after that and seeing everything on social media and TV and the extent of it. I had my family telling me to get on a plane and go back home. Imagine. And my brother was like, get to LAX and get the hell out of there. And I was like, I can't do that. This is my city. I live here. This is my home. It has been for the past 3 years. It just doesn't feel right to me to do that. And so, it was just, I just was crying on the couch watching everything unfold. And I got out of my apartment and stayed with a girlfriend by the ocean for the next 2 months. But I think it was a way for me to also, take the focus of what I was dealing with myself and just put it in, to how can I offer my services to people that have lost everything, and how can I contribute to the community where, I live in this city, I'm choosing to stay here. Everyone's saying, you're not going to be able to breathe in the air quality is bad. And obviously, what does that look like for health-wise long term? It was 9/11, the effects on your lungs of breathing in the air was, that was playing on my mind. And I was like, I should just get out of here. But I spoke to a girlfriend and I just said, how can we help? I think at the time the Altadena girls were all over social media, and it's how can I assist them? And she goes, girl, you should do your own event. And I was like, yeah, maybe I can just get together a few women and just see, what happens from that and how we can help. And then I was actually sending out newsletters to my database called Style and Soul, because with all the work that I'd been doing on myself and, with my fashion background, I wanted to merge those two worlds together because I'm so into wellness, but then obviously the fashion elements there. So I created Style and Soul newsletters. And I was like, maybe we just call this event, Style and Soul. It's a styling and wellness experience for these women.
I love that.
And my friend was like, yeah, I'll help you do it. And so then we partnered up, and then we, created the social media page, created the website, and before we knew it, we were having people donate products and services and clothing, and the more we would reach out and ask, the more people were just willing to donate. And then I was reaching out to other stylists and other wellness facilitators, and everyone was just like, yes, like how can we help? And so before we knew it, we had a whole event. I created like a sign-up questionnaire form just to send out to people who were interested. And now we've received over 100 women who have signed up to this, and we've had to create a second and third event. We just hosted our first one on Saturday.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. And yeah, we had 17 women, and we just held space for them and held them through the process of, you know, feeling grounded again and trying to bring back some sort of confidence and identity through, you know, curating personalized wardrobes for them. And just the gratitude, like firstly the emotion that came with all the women. I had one-on-one calls with them leading up to the event, basically just asking them, you know, what do you need? Like, how can we make you feel, one, like a woman and confident again, you know what I mean? Like, and I just did the best I could just to, you know, have my one-on-one consult calls. But the connection and the emotion that came with all of that was a lot. And so holding space for that and then processing all of that emotion and, you know, try not to get too attached to it because I'm such a sensitive person myself was a lot, but I didn't realize the extent of how this was growing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been beyond profound. And my partner Tony and I had just, you know, lost for words with how the community's come together to make it happen. And yeah, we've created this style and soul experience, and we've got another 2 events now to do. So that's how it unfolded. That's what's happened.
I love it. I feel like Style and Soul is such a good name for a book too. I feel like you're such a spiritual leader, and like I think this all comes to me like intuitively when I say this, but I do believe that the struggles that you have overcome and that you will continue to have, because life is life, right? Mm-hmm. But I think you take that so beautifully and you use that to uplift others. Mm-hmm. And that's like a leader in itself. And the last thing I want to ask you before we go into a fun game, so I'm really excited about this. What's a quote that you live by?
Let go and let God.
That's it. The best. I love it. So good.
Surrender, because that's been my biggest lesson in life. So let go and let God.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah. Let go. I love just let go.
Yeah, let go.
Let go.
Just surrender.
So now we're going to go to a fun little game, which I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions, 1-word answers.
Okay.
So first question is, how do you feed your mind?
Meditation.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feed your body?
Organic produce only.
Like it. And how do you feed your spirit?
Definitely prayer and God.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
This has been incredible. Thank you so much for being a guest and inspiring so many. I really, really enjoyed this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So Ivanna has gone through really always trying to achieve a dream, and even through the hurdles in creating those dreams or making those dreams happen, she was able to take things that weren't ideal and turn them into opportunities, not only for herself to keep going and adapt, but for others as well. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And as you can see, it can be you.